So this is going to be a little bit of a social experiment. As you can tell by the title of today's video, I am going to be reading It Ends With Us for the very first time. Now, I feel like I have a lot of disclaimers before we get started, so sit tight. Now, I know it is a trend to hate on Colleen Hoover, to shame people who like her books, shame people who read her books, and listen, I am not in the business of doing any of that. Like, that is not what I'm here to do. I'm not a Colleen Hoover hater. Like, I'm not gonna come on here and bash her as a person or talk about her controversies. I'm more so just simply do not care about her or her books. Let me detail you my very brief history with Miss Colleen Hoover. Now, I like to say that I am a victim of being catfished by her because the very first book of hers that I ever read was Verity. Yes, I saw it on TikTok. I didn't know anything about Colleen Hoover. I'd never heard of her before that. And I actually really liked Verity. Like, that's the type of books that I thought she wrote. I thought she wrote thrillers. So I marched my little self right back to Barnes & Noble to get another one of her books. And what do I pick up next? Ugly Love. Now, if you don't know, one of the main plot lines of this book is a romance between step-siblings. Listen, I know that that is not technically incest, but it's close enough. The only incestual content that I'm alright consuming is like Game of Thrones. Other than that, I don't want to see it. I ended up DNFing Ugly Love, and from that point forward, I simply did not care to pick up another one of her books ever again. And obviously, I never intended on reading this book. However, I found it in my sister's room. That's why it looks like this. It's all messed up. I would never do this to a book. And I just figured, why not? Why not see what the girlies love about this book and also hate about this book? I really don't know a ton about this book. Really, all I know is that there's a love triangle and Ellen is involved somehow. Yeah, this video is going to be full spoilers. I am just going to be sharing my thoughts as I'm having them while I'm reading. I'm going to talk about what happens in the book. I'm just going to be very candid in this video. Just you and me experiencing this book together. So without further ado, let's see what this is all about. So I've started the book. I'm just here reading on the floor. I love the floor. I am a floor person, but I'm on page 6. And we are literally introduced to Ryle. He is assaulting a lawn chair. That's how we meet Ryle. So Lily's on the rooftop and she's like witnessing him take out all of his anger on a piece of furniture. And instead of getting the ick from that, she literally like admires him for it. Because she's like, here's this guy taking out all of his anger instead of keeping it all in like I do. Like, good for him. Literally page 6 and it's like, babe, that's a red flag. Granted, it's not like a person, but like it's not his property. It's still like vandalism. I don't know, to me, just like watching a man take out an exorbitant amount of anger on an inanimate object, that would give me the ick. Oh my god, she literally just told him that her father died that week and his response is, nice try, I'm not falling for that. Falling for what? Like, why would you assume that she's lying about that? I don't know, I'm really not understanding Miss Lily's thought process quite yet. Okay, this man has had so many red flags in 22 pages. So he's saying that the thought of marriage repulses him. And it's like, I get it. I get not wanting to get married. I get, you know, saying marriage is not for me. I don't want a spouse. But if a man looked at me and said the thought of marriage repulsed him, I would be like, okay, yeah, I am not going to speak to you any longer. Because the feeling of repulsion is like a strong feeling. Like, there are so many red flags. And then he goes, anyone can have children. Anyone can get married, but not everyone can be a neurosurgeon. I would have laughed at him. If I were Lily, I would have laughed at him for saying that. This man needs someone to humble him. And I have a feeling he does not get humble. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if she's like immune to the ick, which like good for her if she is. I don't know. Haven't figured Lily out yet because like, why are you not seeing these things as red flags? Okay, so Lily is obsessed with Ellen, which that's goofy. But she basically like writes letters to Ellen as like a diary entry type thing. She just like tells Ellen about her life. Which, okay, she's quirky, she's different, she's a little bit of a weirdo. But like, I just want to read this one sentence. So, you know, she has met Atlas. Yes, he's homeless. Don't know how we could forget that fact because she calls him homeless every single time she talks about him. But in this letter to Ellen, I guess Ellen just interviewed Barack Obama. And she says, man, so much has happened to both of us. You just interviewed someone who might be our next president and I'm feeding a homeless boy. Like, that sentence is so funny to me. I don't know, this is literally gonna take me forever to get through if I'm stopping every other page to talk about what's going on. So it is the next day. To be honest with you guys, I only read about 60 pages of this yesterday because I kept getting sidetracked by all of the other books that I'm reading at this moment. Actually, let me just tell you about all of them, because what am I here to do? I'm here to talk about books. So that's what we're gonna do. So I'm currently trying to start Crooked Kingdom, but to be so very honest, I'm kind of having a hard time getting into it at the moment. Like, I've only made it to page 6, so technically haven't really started this yet. As for the other book that I'm reading right now, I'm reading The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. This is a very, like, well-known psychology book. It is all about trauma and healing from trauma and how your body holds on to trauma. Fun fact about me, if y'all didn't know, I majored in psychology in college, and a lot of the nonfiction books that I have, or like I like to read, are like psychology books. So I actually really like this so far. I feel like, even though I just said I do like to read nonfiction psychology, I feel like I'm like working to stay engaged with them, but I haven't felt that way with this one yet. Maybe it's just because I've been out of school for a minute, so my brain is like hungry for knowledge. Going back into my intellectual era. Also, I low-key want to start, hold on. I also low-key want to start this right now. It's Just Kids by Patti Smith. But like, adding a 4th book to the mix right now is such a ridiculous idea. Like, why would I do that to myself? So I read about 60 pages of this yesterday, and then I just sat down now and read a couple more pages, and I really feel like this entire video is just gonna be me making fun of a man. So Ryle just showed up at Lily's apartment building. He does not know which apartment she lives in. So he goes to 29 different apartments trying to look for her, and then when he gets there, he starts begging her for sex. Let me read this to you. He's saying these next couple months are the most important of his entire career. He has to be focused because he's like finishing his residency, whatever. But for the past week, I haven't been able to get you out of my head. I don't know why. At work, at home, all I can think about is how crazy it feels when I'm near you. And I need you to make it stop, Lily. Please make it stop. Just once. That's all it'll take, I swear. Like, how embarrassing. These are literally the manipulation tactics of a 16-year-old boy in high school, middle school even. Also, keep in mind, this is after meeting her twice. They've had 2 interactions before this, and all of a sudden he can't focus on anything until he has sex with her just one time. Sir. No, I can't even call you sir. I'm gonna call you boy. Little boy. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. I really just feel like I'm gonna be making fun of him the entire time I read this. Literally the next page. I am on page 71. He's saying,
"Please, Lily, please have sex with me. I want you so, so bad, and I swear, once you have sex with me, you'll never hear from me again. I promise."
Like, shut up. I also understand, like, maybe the allure, the power of having a man beg to have sex with you. But at the same time, this is a man you've met twice. I'm literally never going to get through this book. Next page, page 72. Lily's saying this. She's warning him because she's saying that she's like a drug. If you have sex with me tonight, it's only going to make things worse for you. But once is all you're getting, I refuse to become one of the many girls you use to satisfy your needs. Like, babe, isn't that exactly what you're doing at the moment? He is using you to satisfy his need. That is exactly what you're doing. And his response is, I'm not the kind of guy who needs someone more than once. We have nothing to worry about. So up until this point, I really have not thought to like explain the plot of this book, because in my head, like, everyone has already read this book, so I don't really need to like sit here and necessarily describe it to you. So like, very briefly, if you don't know, Lily, who is the main character of this book, when she was younger, like 15 years old, she, I guess, develops this relationship with a homeless boy, which you will never forget that he's homeless, because that's pretty much all she ever talks about. But she like figures out that he's staying in this like abandoned house, so she kind of starts to like invite him in, and she feeds him and she starts taking care of him, and then eventually she like has him like sleep in her room at night because it's like winter, it's cold, whatever. But yeah, we know that they like develop a relationship from that. So obviously now it's current day, she's in this thing with Ryle, and we've just been getting like snippets of the past through her little letters to Ellen. So that's how we know about Atlas. And of course now he's just showed up in the present day as a waiter. So that's obviously how we get into this little love triangle thing. I'm now on page 140. I haven't had a ton of other thoughts. I did just think this one part was funny though. In one of her little letters to Ellen, Lily's talking about how like, oh, it's so screwed up that there are all these rich people in the world and they don't help like poor people. And she's like talking to Ellen and she's like, no offense, Ellen, I know you're rich, but I guess I'm not referring to people like you. And she's like, I'll never be like that. I swear to you, when I grow up, I'm gonna do everything I can to help other people. I'll be like you, Ellen. Babe, you are talking about people like her. I wonder what Miss Lily would think now if she knew that. 1, the Ellen show is not on anymore. And 2, we now know that Ellen is like not a good person. I don't know, she should have chose someone else to be obsessed with. Maybe like Oprah. I like cannot with these diary entries to Ellen. Like, I just cannot take them seriously. But I'm at a part where it's like 10 straight pages of diary entry. And so she's like starting to like Atlas. But he got into contact with his uncle, and his uncle is like, yes, you can come stay here with me in Boston. She's like sad that he's gonna like leave and go to Boston. It's just like, babe, did you think he was gonna stay homeless for you? Or also, I just think it's so weird how like his very first and foremost identity with Lily is that he's like this homeless kid. Like, he's her classmate, he knows her, they go to school together. But before any of that, he's just homeless. He just pushed her. I did have somewhat of an idea that there was like domestic abuse and domestic violence involved in this book, but like we get that with her parents, and now Ryle just pushed her because he burnt his hand. His own dumbass burnt his hand, and Lily was laughing because she was like drunk, and that made him mad, so he pushed her. He's like, this hand is my career. I will cut your fingers off. Ryle is such an asshole. He's never not been an asshole. This entire time since I started the book, Ryle has been an asshole. This is Atlas, the homeless boy you pity fucked. Follow Ryle outside, and he's walking toward the parking lot. I run to catch up with him, and he just stops and punches at the air. Like, how is she not laughing at this man? Okay, that was insensitive because she was laughing at him and he literally pushed her. So they're getting married. Are they actually getting married? Are they actually going to Vegas and having a shotgun wedding? They actually got married. So he just found Atlas's phone number in the back of Lily's phone because Atlas gave Lily his phone number like on a post-it and then stuck it like in the back of her phone case. And so Ryle found it, and now he's having a temper tantrum. He pushed her down the stairs and he's trying to tell her she fell. He literally just pushed her down the stairs, and he's still being an asshole to her. You fell, he says calmly, about 5 minutes ago, right after I found out what a liar I married. Why didn't anyone ever give Lily a gun? And then he wants to come cry to her and say, please tell me you aren't seeing him, please. It hurts so much, Lily. I love you so much. Do you not think it hurt her when you pushed her down the stairs? Ryle is a baby. He's a man-child. Oh, she says, now get the fuck out of my apartment. Okay, Lily. So apparently the reason that Ryle gets so angry is because he blacks out, and that's all because he, shot his older brother when he was a child. Am I supposed to feel bad for him? Because I don't. I would never tell you this because I want it to excuse my behavior. Since that happened, there are things I can't control. I get angry, I black out. I've been in therapy since I was 6 years old. You need a new therapist. Of course she's pregnant. Because why wouldn't she be pregnant? Ryle literally finds her diary, reads her diary, figures out the whole like restaurant magnet thing. So he literally hurts her again, and she calls Atlas for help. He takes her to the hospital and they tell her she's pregnant. Why doesn't she just get an abortion? Okay, that might have been a little much, but this hair is definitely giving like 4-year-old, but we're back. So it has been a few days since I've read this book. I am on page 342. I literally have this much left, and then I just took a break. I could not be in the head of someone who loves Ellen DeGeneres for much longer. So I gave myself a couple of days. I read something that I enjoyed, and now I'm back. We're just gonna sit together and finish this. We just went from chapter 34 to 35, where Ryle and Lily were not together, and now Ryle is making her toast and like kissing her on the side of the head, and they're like vibing. So I feel like we have quite a bit to unpack here. I finished the book yesterday, and I wanted to give myself a day to like let it all sink in and digest. And I'm still feeling like I have no idea where to start. So I guess I'll start by saying I did not like it. Like, this has definitely not inspired me to read any more Colleen Hoover. Like, that will not be happening. So obviously this book gets a lot of criticism, and one of the main criticisms I've seen is that it romanticizes domestic abuse and abuse in relationships. And when you read the very interesting epilogue, you see that this book is inspired by her parents, that Colleen Hoover witnessed domestic abuse between her parents when she was a child. So obviously her goal was not to set out and intentionally romanticize abuse with this book. However, in my opinion, the subject matter and like the idea behind the book, it was just executed poorly. And that's that's why it doesn't work. And I don't know, I almost feel bad saying that because this is a personal story she was writing to express a part of her childhood and how she grew up, and like she wanted to tell her mother's story. So like obviously there are very heavy topics in this book, and like it is slightly graphic. Like there are outright descriptions of violence, yet it is marketed, packaged, and written like it is your like average, typical, lighthearted, feel-good romance. And it's not. Like, this book should only ever be marketed as literary fiction. So yeah, the idea and the intentions were there, but the execution was not. I don't know. The writing was cringy, the dialogue was cringy, the letters to Ellen were a choice. And you can definitely tell that Lily is like a millennial. Like, this book is millennial energy. I think this was written in like 2015, 2016, and Lily's supposed to be 23, so I think that would make her a millennial. Ryle was literally awful from the very moment you meet him. I do not see how he's supposed to be like a character that you like fall in love with. You see how Lily falls in love with him and gets drawn in, and then you're like surprised when he does what he does. Like, there was never a point at which I liked him. Ryle was very much just a child, and it felt like Lily had zero common sense. I don't know. I'm kind of glad I read it just so I know what everyone is talking about now. Like, I definitely think the criticism is a little blown out of proportion. Like, the hate that this book gets on Book Talk is something serious. Book Talk is a scary place. And like, based off of what I've seen on TikTok, I was expecting this to be the worst book I've ever read. And I will say it wasn't. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was good. But I'm also not sitting here feeling like I just read the worst book I'm ever gonna read in my entire life. Also, those outfits that they're putting Blake Lively in for this movie are a crime. Because nowhere in that book is she wearing clothing like that. Oh, I just realized I never gave a rating. I'm gonna give it 2 stars. 2 stars. Because believe it or not, I have read worse. But yeah, that was it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys decide to stick around. Probably won't be seeing any more Colleen Hoover from me, and I'll see you in the next one.